A vision, met a man, switched up the plan and settled with them. God found them, both broken and needing healing. You should see how far they come, cause how faithful they been living. Two parents in their teens going into their wedding. Two more daughters will come later, God knew it would bless them. He said you could call me dad, I still remember the feeling. Always see me as his own, always kept it a trillion. Poor as can be, why? Cause the Lord had a mission. Don't even like the outdoors, but y'all gonna do some fishing. Obeyed the calls with kids bouncing off the walls. No one understood the path that they was on.
Hi, my name is Joanne Dominguez. Welcome back to Faithful Living. I am here with my awesome husband, Gabriel Pastor G.
That's right. What's up,
Dominguez.
everybody? What's up? What's up?
And we have special guests here with us today. So we want to go ahead and introduce Mr. and Mrs. Fajardo, Crystalina, Angelo. Thank y'all for being here with us today.
Hey, let's go. You know what I'm saying? That was the pitazo I was looking for to give. The Fajardos are in the house for sure, man.
Yes.
What's
Thank
up,
y'all
y'all?
for taking
Welcome
the time
to
to be here.
Faithful Living Podcast.
It's a blessing. Yep.
Yeah, so, Faithful Living, just a reminder for those that are out there that are just tuning in. Faithful Living Podcast is a concept we came up with, me and my wife, on documenting our life story together, which is about 20 plus years of our story, 20 since 98, around there. But anyway, and part of those, part of our story involves other people and their stories. So the Fajardos are very, it's definitely a part of our story. And Angelo happens to be my little cousin. And so, we go way back with that. It's even before church. Obviously,
You've
he's my
known him
cousin.
since he was born.
Yeah, since he was out the womb. You know what I mean? And so, so there's a lot of before church world and then after church world, and that we can bring in this whole thing. But as we talk about our story and you guys crossing over into our story, we also want to give you an opportunity to share your story together, because it's a story for sure. And I think it's gonna be fun for us. It's gonna be a treat for us, and hopefully we trust that it's gonna be a blessing for you guys as well. We got your mom, who's my cousin, then we got your dad, who's a longtime friend of mine before then, and during and even now. And so there's a lot of stories there. But me coming out of prison, going to church, giving my life to God, and I started doing everything that had to do with the local church. And then, years are passing. You're of age to be in youth ministry. Me and Joanne met in youth ministry at our church, and we're volunteers. Then we became youth pastors. And at some point in that, I can't remember, you may remember, Angelo comes in, and he's a part of our youth group. You end up coming to our youth services. You were young. That's kind of the background.
You talk about the youth ministry. So I was going, me and my mom were coming to church.
Okay.
And then that's when I started to make those crazy choices as a teenager. So then that's when we all, me and my mom, everybody stopped going to church.
Okay.
And we were all out of there as a family. And then I had went, I think at 15, that's when I went to that North Texas facility for a couple months, got out, and then I got a job at the mall at Foot Locker, and then that's when I met her. She was working at Finish Line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
At the mall.
I just remember seeing Crystalina at the family gatherings when we would go to your grandma's house.
Yeah. And so we got together, and then when we
Hold on, she said grandma, man. Shout out. Shout out to my Aunt Gloria.
Yeah.
Man. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so we got together, and then that's when I went downhill. Like, just started hustling hard, and it just, all that with that lifestyle, it got crazy. And
to be clear, I was like not in a good place either. So I was raised in church, and of course my dad is a pastor. And
hold on, we can't just go over that real quick.
Okay.
So let the world know who your parents are.
My mom and dad are Jimmy and Janet Doral.
Come on, I gotta play the song. Let's go. The Doros, they got their own day up in this
Oh my
mug.
gosh.
Janet Doral and Jimmy Doral, legends,
gosh.
legends up in this in Waco, Texas, man. I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you right now. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so I started just making like really poor choices and just being real rebellious, and ended up not being with them at that time. I wasn't living with them. And I was just making bad choices. Well, anyways, I got a job at the mall at Finish Line.
Okay.
So I worked at a different shoe store,
Mm-hmm.
and we met.
Yeah.
Selling shoes.
Selling shoes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so yeah, it got crazy between us, living, together at 17, and it was real crazy, like, yeah. Yeah.
Well, so keep going with the journey. So it was crazy, and what are some pivotal moments in y'all's relationship?
Go ahead, I'll let you.
I mean, it was like it was a lot of bad, basically, like bad, like, because we were already starting to live together, and just find like we were fighting like grown adults, like it was mental abuse and physical abuse.
What was y'all's ages around this time, just so people can get a
17? Yeah.
18.
Yeah.
okay?
And so I had some crazy addictions, and yeah, it just got real bad. And then that's when Nyala came about in 2011.
All right.
And that's when we got the red garage apartment in Helltown.
Oh my goodness, the naughty north.
The naughty north. And
So Helltown is on north. What is that?
16th.
16th.
16th Street.
Man.
And so, so then that's when y'all got the call. That's when y'all got the call that she was ready to leave me. This time for good. Like,
Yeah, I
'cause
had
we-
left already like 20 times. But
100 times.
yeah.
And that's when she called you. I'm like, hey, enough's enough, and I'm finna leave. She's finna take Nada, and I was like 6 months old, and and that's when we had the meeting.
And it was like a garage with the apartment on the top,
Yeah,
and looked like a red barn.
yeah,
And I was like, all right, we always do food, so your wife over here, Crystalina, can cook. She's always been a cook. So I remember she cooked a meal for us. We went over there. I said, let's hold on, Crystalina. Let's all talk about this, and we'll let's see, And she knew.
Yeah.
I would always give you a calentada.
yeah,
She trusted and knew because I would never let you slide.
Yeah.
I would never say, let's get together so that we can pacify anything.
Yeah.
It was always the way it was, and
So
I
and
remember.
just so we're clear, because I said that we called y'all, so we were already. I was going to church here and there.
And I was giving you CDs.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. Because I used to bump that Reconcile, that
Yes.
Christian rapper.
Yeah.
I'll be on it like at 5 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, but
When you say on it, what do you mean?
I'm coke.
Okay.
Yeah, about 5 a.m. After I'm done with the night, I'll put on the Christian CD that you gave me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And be processing what's going on in the song.
Yeah. And so I was starting to go to church here and there. But then that's when she called you because she know I was talking to you. And she was trying to find somebody to intervene.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Because there was accountability there. Because you allowed the accountability to be there.
Yeah.
Because there was before that, there was times where there wasn't no accountability. It was just me reaching out to you.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't an engagement like that yet
Yeah.
before.
Because it was about 5. Because I was going to the youth ministry like around 14, on and off. And then I went away for about 6 years with no contact, But that's when you, at age 19, 20, at 20, that's when I reached out. No, you came and saw me in the county jail.
That's right.
And that's like, okay, you were like, hey, come to church. And then when I got out, I went. You know, that's when I got baptized. So at age
So-
20.
So before that, I would see you at our Thanksgiving stuff. I'd see you at our little gatherings, or I'd just pass by Uncle Mike's house on the corner
Yeah.
and see you and Robert outside, and I'll pull up on y'all, and I always would tell you, hey, bro, about changing this and that,
Yeah.
and then pray with y'all. I would always say, hey, can I pray with y'all? Yeah, I'd be on it and all
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of those multiple touches of
Yeah.
those moments that I learned. I think we talked about this before, but I learned like from Stella, because Stella would always want to pray for me or invite me to church, and I was doing what I was doing. So I learned how to be that way and not try to, be intimidated by it or try to make y'all feel any different other
Yeah.
than to just try to engage with y'all with Jesus. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Which was powerful because by you showing that love, even though you didn't see the fruit right there,
yeah,
when it was time, I was able to reach out because I knew you weren't going to judge me,
there you go.
which is
Yeah.
powerful because a lot of people are intimidated by people. They judge them quick,
Yeah.
because they want to see fruit right away, and then they lose that opportunity later on, so
That's
I
good.
reached out because I knew you'd accept me, so.
Yeah, so then you started coming to church, and then you ended up getting baptized. We talked about that. By the anyway, so let's talk about you though on that. Where were you at in this whole process from when he got locked up? Maybe share a little bit before that, a little bit after, and then while he started going to church.
Well, when he got locked up, I was like,
But which time?
I know I was supposed to say, ugh. So
The last
basically, the long period of time that he got incarcerated, not locked up, it was a time that we were like really bad. So we were like in a really bad space all together. And so I was just kind of like, deuces, I'm not worried about you anymore. Like that was kind of like my call to like freedom at that point.
Okay.
And so I was already kind of like preparing my head in a space of like, I'm not going to tolerate these type of behaviors anymore. And I wasn't making good choices either, but I also was like, I'm not going to deal with his choices either,
Right.
kind of thing. And so, but he got out and I got pregnant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when we got pregnant, it was like after we had the baby, after we had Nyla, it was more so like, okay, we got to get it together. And that was my big turning point was Nyla.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, I got to do this for my baby.
So
And I
it
got
changed things for y'all.
Big time.
Putting her foot down. That's
Yeah.
why she called y'all putting her foot down. Like,
Because I was really like, I can't
yeah, because
do
I was
my daughter
like,
like this.
because I was, not coming home, getting on it real bad, and
And not to put the blame on anybody else, but there were some individuals that weren't like-minded. They were participating in unhealthy stuff that you were trying to get away from.
Yeah.
That you were still participating with at your house.
yeah.
Which was at that time you didn't have any boundaries. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's good to mention because that's the difference from then to now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When
for
people
sure.
think about, well, why are y'all the way y'all are right now, right? Compared to then. Well, obviously it's God, but there's boundaries. There's decisions that y'all make. There's a culture that y'all have at home, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's
Yeah.
values
Yeah.
that have changed and that y'all have established. Can y'all talk about that then? And then-
Then it was hard because like our culture, like my family, like everybody was coming out of prison, people selling drugs and doing drugs, and so it's like it was hard because I was trying to change, but they would just pull up. Hey, I got a 24-ounce beer. All right, I'm gonna just drink one and that's it. Next, I'm doing other things, and so I had to tell them, I had to tell my uncle like, hey man, I remember calling them, tears and like, hey man, you need to come pick up this stuff because they were starting to stash stuff at the house, make a little extra money, and I just had to tell everybody I'm done with everybody. I can't be around y'all because it's I'm attracted to that life, and so
you were trying to recover.
I was trying to recover, you know what I mean, and
And you were about to lose.
yeah, I was
your
about to
wife.
lose my wife, and I didn't know the steps to change, but I knew I had common sense. Like, you know what, this right here just keeps burning me. And then you're telling me, so I'm like, all right, I need to cut everybody off for a while.
So what do you have to say about that part, about the cutting people off and all that? Where are you with all that, both in your personal life and then seeing him do that, and then both of y'all together?
Yeah, I mean, with him, I mean, it was more of a bigger deal, I guess, just because that was the stronger influence at the time. And I mean, I was really like put up with it. So I was done. And so like it's hard because that's family, that's friends, that's people we've always been around. But at the same time, I mean, that hunger to want different was stronger than those things. And so was stronger than those relationships, honestly. So it was just like, I'd rather him be here with me and we are boring in our garage apartment than us be out trying to worry about our friends or cousins or whoever else is involved. And
And I think that was the hardest thing, man, in the beginning. And just you're the only one trying to do things right while everybody else is doing the opposite. It was hard. And then we were young. I'm 21.
Young. Yeah, we were young.
I got sober right when I turned 21.
Yeah.
Everybody was already saying, hey, we're finna go bar hopping. Because we went to bars and everything, but now I ain't got to show a fake ID or none of that. And so that was hard, man. Like going against the culture, like crazy. It's hard.
So as a couple, would you say at that particular time in y'all's circle, were y'all the only couple at that particular time that was doing that?
Oh yeah, for years it felt like,
Yeah,
you know.
like
I
it
mean,
was
of
a
course
long
the
time.
church, but like in our family.
I mean, within y'all's circle, outside of the church.
Yeah, the only ones. Like, man.
So y'all ended up being, I would say, then beacons of hope for others to look at as a model, right? And maybe some of those folks, family included, they may have knocked it, they didn't understand it, they felt threatened by it or whatever. Because a lot of times me and Joanne have talked about this on this podcast before, but a lot of times our people, they don't know what to do with that, especially when we're talking about family units that have never really experienced church or a relationship with God in a way that it dramatically changes you, right? And so a lot of times people don't know what to do with that. They'll even get offended. Yeah, it's not their fault. They don't know what to do with that, right? Nobody really teaches us about when that type of life transformation happens. What did I do to you? You know what I mean? We've grown up doing all this. Now all of a sudden you're gonna leave me hanging, right? But for obvious reasons, which I just talked about, those are the reasons why you do it. People on the outside don't understand all that at the time. But I'm sure now they look at it and they're like, wow, they're proud of you guys and what y'all have accomplished. Well, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But but in the trenches.
Yeah, and it really took like 6-7 years for people to really be like, okay, these are for real. Because they've never, our culture, they've never seen somebody just stop living this life, for good, know. So, it took years, man.
It can be intimidating to be older and have younger people doing what you're supposed to be doing as the older generation. That can be intimidating. So, like, back to what I was saying about people don't know what to do with that, is like these little mocosos are trying to, do something different, and that's whatever. And the older ones really are the ones that should be doing that, but they can feel some type of way without realizing it because you're reflecting like a mirror to them of what they should be doing. Yeah. Anyway.
This just kind of reminded me of the scripture that I was talking about earlier that I had shared about. Jesus said, whoever wants to be my disciple must take up his cross, follow me daily. Deny yourself, why gain the whole world and then lose your soul? But like I've heard people say this, you don't have to do all that to be a Christian. Yeah. You don't have to do all that to be a Christian. I can worship God at home, all that kind of stuff. And, and I don't know, but I feel like there's a difference in the way that you say, I'm not going to do those things no more. I'm not going to put myself in those places no more. And I don't. Yeah. I mean, did you want to speak to that?
Angelo, speak. You hear?
Like the desires, the culture, like picking up that cross, man. It's like, it was hard, like tears, and and feeling lonely because there was no other couples our age doing that, you know, and it's like, you know, well, that was 2012, 2013, 24. It was hard for a couple years. Like, man, we're here on the weekend. Everybody's out on the weekend. Everybody's doing this. So it was hard, man. It's like picking up that cross. It was like for real hard, you know. And so dealing with those emotions for us as young Christians, 21, 22, 23, yeah, it was tough.
But it was something that you were willing to do. One of the things that I heard you say was that you were in a bad place, you know, and you had made some poor decisions. You were raised in a good home, in a good loving home, a pastor. You know, you say nothing but good things about your dad all the time. So, but then you made these decisions because you were experiencing something on the inside, and you found Jesus.
Yeah.
And then, or Jesus found you.
Yeah, Jesus found me for sure.
And then you were like, this is what I want, and I'm willing to.
Yeah, for sure. It was one of those things where I even though I wasn't going to church when Angelo had started going, I still wanted that for him, for us, because I knew that it, you know, we weren't even married yet at that. We weren't married yet. But I knew that I needed him to lead in that, and I needed him to do it. And
I remember,
like I just had,
And I remember she when y'all started at Kendrick, no, hold on, off Memorial.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was the first one.
She's the one that was like, hey, let's go visit Gateway Church. And I'm like, man, I got time for that. And she was like, no, let's go. So we went one time, and I couldn't even focus a message. That's when I was hustling. My phone kept going off. But she was urgent. Like, she was like, man, we need to go. And we went that one time, you know, but still, it was like.
See, so that was crazy. So me and Joanne, that was our first. We had just started our ministry, the Life Church ministry, right? And that was the first location at the Korean church on Memorial Drive. And then we outgrew that. And then we ended up going to Kendrick Lane Baptist Church location right next to Kendrick Elementary. And that's where you ended up then at that time when you started going to our membership classes. and the you know, again, we did this with your story on another podcast, but we'll show just some of that picture of when you got baptized, because you were like wasted away. There wasn't no Ozempic back then. You were like numb of bones. And, you know, a real quick story. We were doing our Life Steps class, which was a process we put together for those that wanted to be active in the church. And first was the membership class, and then you had a part where we talked about fellowship, and then we talked about discipleship, and you know, all those, and then missions, and you know, worship, and so you were on the membership class. And I remember he showed up, and Uncle Tony hit you up on the phone. And
I had took his truck.
Yeah, you took his truck, and you were like, it was in the middle of the deal, and you were just like, hey, cuz, I'm sorry, y'all. He goes, my grandpa want to talk to you. So I'm up in the middle teaching the class, and then I'm like, hey, what's up, Uncle Tony? And he just say, hey, I just wanted to make sure that Paisa is at church. He's with you? I'm like, yeah. He goes, okay, because he got, what do you call his truck? The White Lightning or whatever he called it.
Something like that.
But he goes, I just want to make sure that he's not lying to me. He lies. And I'm like, all right. I said, nah, he's over here, Uncle Tony, so we good. But, you know, you had people checking on you. And I remember when you got baptized on the membership class, there's a decision. Remember, Joanne? And I don't know if you remember, he checked it off that he wanted to get baptized. And me and her, during these type of classes, we would always get excited because everybody would walk away, and then we'd look at what people said.
It's like opening up a little present.
Yeah, she's like, oh my God, she said he wants to get baptized. And I'm like, all right. And I was thinking this time, like, man, he's throwed off. He had just got raided in the hotel, and you know, and all this. But he really had an encounter with Jesus. He really was struggling, but really trying to move forward despite the struggles going on inside of him still and around him still. And I remember baptizing him, and I'm like, man, I was thinking in my head, man, there are some pastors that probably wouldn't baptize them for all kind of other different reasons that I don't agree with how they posture sometimes. But I'm like, man, this man, the Spirit of God brought him here. This ain't got nothing to do with me more than what it does have to do with is him and God. And so he's responding to the grace of God. And there I was just facilitating. We were facilitating that. And I'll never forget that day. And we got the picture that'll come on.
Yeah.
And that was in what, 2000?
That was 2011. That's when I got out.
Okay.
And then months later, that's when we moved in together, with Nyla. Yeah.
So then it gets messy. So then we,
Yeah.
it gets messy because then you're trying to come to church. I'm giving you CDs. I'm trying to give you stuff to replace what you're stopped. When you stop doing something, then you have to start doing something else.
Yeah.
You can't just stop doing something and just sit there like a bump on the log.
Yeah.
It ain't going to work.
Yeah.
So what we've always said is you got to start doing something. Start coming to church.
Yeah.
Start getting involved.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to get down, come to membership class. Let's see what you're about.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's come to the discipleship class. Okay, come. And you were doing all that. Come to the ministry one. That's where it started getting interesting.
Yeah.
Because in the ministry one, you remember when we're doing the evaluation of the spiritual gifts and all that stuff. I don't know if you remember that when we went to the ministry part, and it tells you pretty much what your gifts are. And so you started getting involved, and before you know it, I don't even know, Joanne, do you remember the details of then they became our youth pastors or youth directors or whatever we called them?
That was the beginning of 2013
2013.
when we became the youth directors.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
I just remember that one of the things that was common was that y'all had, it was like same thing with you, it's the young people seem to want to be around you, seem to want to flock to you, and it's the same thing for him and Crystalina. Young people were wanting to be around them, and that's not something you see all the time. And so we recognized that, and we wanted to honor what we felt like God was doing and the way he was moving. And to this day, the ministry that you guys had was one of the largest, and you really did go through all, because you trained him. You say laced up all the time. He was laced up.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
And he had,
okay, but
he was pouring that into the people around him.
But let's talk about that. So like everything I threw at him, or we threw at people really, like that wanted to not only just attend church, but become members and become leaders. And because we looked at it and like you reach people, you maintain people, and then you deploy people. And so we've always had a system that said, if you really want this, we got what's next for you, no matter what it is, right? So you want to become a member? Great. We got something even more than that. You want to become a leader? Great. We got something more than that. And so we had discipleship, and then we had leadership development. And all those different things you actually went through because you kept saying yes, both of y'all, because y'all came along together with this. But Angelo, he was always hungry. Like he was always ready for the challenge. And it was a challenge, right? Because you don't, in leadership, leaders are learners, and you had to show me that you're really willing to learn. And you were at no matter how challenging it was. The thing about you being a leader is you would regurgitate that and put it back on me.
So I wanted to take a moment to say something that I've always thought, it's not in order or anything, but it's just kind of like to say it. But I've always appreciated the way that Angelo has been consistent. He's always been consistent.
Yep.
And he's a loyal person, and he is I feel like when his word is his bond, like when he says something, he follows through with that. And to the point to where sometimes Crystalina would get upset because she'd be like, you don't have to do everything that he says. But like, he was really wanting to honor God, and he was really wanting to live his life for Jesus and be different. And so whatever that meant, he was willing to do that for God, not necessarily for you, but for God. And to the point to where Crystalina sometimes will have to be like, well, hold on now. You got a wife and you got kids, and it ain't all about the church. And, but I'm just saying, like, what he knew was that God saved me.
Yeah.
And whatever he wants for me, I want to honor him, and I want to do that. And then, just kind of he excels. He's got an anointing on him.
Yeah.
But to just be able to, I wanted to point that out. Like, he's always been able to do that. And so what we saw was that in ministry, their ministry flourished.
Yep.
And then also that he would apply those things in their, like they would attend the classes where we would have marriage classes
Yep.
and we would go through all the stuff. And then he wasn't perfect at all, like, but who of us is, but
Right.
he was consistent. Like, whenever she would say to him, you need to do this, he would
Nah,
he
for
would try to
real.
do it. And I've always I've always been proud of you for that. And I've always been proud of you. I mean, like, I see y'all now and I'm just like, thank you, Lord. Like, it's a blessing to see.
Crystalina's always been the secret sauce, right? She's always been, because when a woman supports a man in ministry, that's basically what Joanne has done for me. She's allowed me to lead. You wanted him to lead, like, take your butt to church. You know what I mean? And then, okay, well, I'm gonna support him coming to church. And matter of fact, I'm gonna support him while we're doing youth ministry. That's important, right? Because you could have chose not to do that, but you didn't. You've always supported him this whole time, no matter how crazy it sounded, right? But that's the way our wives are. They're always, even, because we're visionaries, right? We're a lot alike in leadership. Is, we get all these dreams. Hey, we're gonna do this, and our wives be like, man, if you don't sit your butt down somewhere, but and then that's why we got to come around each other and be like, man, they don't understand, but look, it's what we're gonna do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they do.
And then we be crunk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's what everybody needs to understand, is that there's no me without Pastor Joanne, right? Because she supported me throughout all these years and come alongside me, right? And she's trusted in the God in me. Even though there's a lot of times, some of that to her was suspect. Not as far as nothing bad, but just as far as, did he hear from the Lord on that? Kind of deal, right? Yeah. And I know y'all can relate. Can you talk about some of that on your end?
Like,
Well, dang, I don't even know where to begin. No, no, I mean, when it comes to like the youth days, that was very much, I was happy. Like, I felt like I was right there along with him because it was different. And because I didn't have to like stress and worry about the things we had worried about before, and it was like, I was happy. Like, it was an exciting time for me to feel like relief of like, oh, we're doing this together and it's making an impact and these kids are, changing their lives. And it's, I don't know, like, so that was that. But there was a lot of times like, oh, we got to go get the kids or we got to go do this. And I'd be like, hold on, pause, because we can't do everything. Like, so there was a few times where we'd have to push the brakes a little bit.
That balance of it all.
Yeah,
because I was ready to spend our water bill on the kids, and because they talking about they need food, they hungry.
I mean, that's I remember there would be times where he would buy boxes of chicken for the youth that like when we were doing youth ministry and stuff. And I was like, we need a box of chicken. Gas that we don't have. Like, we're.
A lot of no lights, God.
Yeah, so this guy, oh my gosh. Hey, but no, look, man, let's be real about being in ministry, reaching to the poor and marginalized folks out there. This is what a lot of people don't talk about is the context, right? And so, we have a lot of different problems and situations than, let's just say, the middle class or the upper class people in ministry. But we get the job done, no matter what it is. We just get it done. If there's insurance problems, if there's these kind of problems, we don't trip on that, because in life we don't trip on that. So when it comes to ministry, man, we're just going to get it done because kids need to hear from Jesus and, about Jesus and all that kind of stuff. So we'll have to come back and talk about that more at another time. But anyway, you guys were very pivotal in our ministry with shouldering those responsibilities, because, we were out there reaching the knuckleheads, the parents, and then they brought their kids. And then I was at Mission Waco. Shout out to Mission Waco, man. Jimmy Doro out there, man. She's a Mission Waco. What would we call you at this point? Founding member.
No.
She's about, but the Doros, are the founding members, but she's a part of that family. So for sure, you're a part of all that, man. And I remember working there for 10 years during this time with the Life Church deal going on. And, a lot of I was working with the youth kids, the inner city kids. And so high risk kids in Parkside, all that stuff. And, I remember a lot of times we had the privilege, the honor to then, when we started Life Church, to say, hey, dude, we got a youth ministry. In fact, the guy grew up right down the street, on some of this stuff. And so they would gravitate to you, you know what I mean? So we're able to, you got the Austins, all these different kids out there, the Herreras, shout out to all these people, man, that have been a part of the life of our ministry. But, the Mike D's, all these different, man, it's just, we had that opportunity though to funnel everything that we were doing in the community to Life Church, and you guys were there reaching out and also receiving these different young people into the church, and a lot of them didn't even have parents that were bringing them. Yeah. I mean, in fact, y'all were having to go pick some up, and some of them were walking. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was like, I think it felt like a social program, you know what I mean? Like, because we were like for real, they'll call, hey man, I need.
Y'all felt like social workers?
Social workers, man, because we're showing up to their probation meetings. We're bringing them food because they ain't got nothing to eat at the house, and it was a lot of that stuff, And so I think it put a strain on us too, though, because I'm like so passionate, but I'm like not having boundaries in my home too, you know what I mean? And you want to talk about that?
Speak on it, sister.
I mean, it's just what it was. I mean, it could be very stressful. We had, Angelo had a hard time saying no to a lot of things. And that was, we have our own children. We have
full-time jobs.
At that point,
we got full-time jobs, and that was like a full-time job. I'm up at 12 at night. We're doing small groups at the house. Got about 30 kids at the house, and it was wild, man. It was beautiful at the same time.
Getting into fights.
And
that's what the Bible studies consisted of.
For real.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But you're dealing with folks right there where they're at, young people right there where they're at, and they're used to fighting. They're used to doing all these things, and you're willing to engage them in their habitat and help them work through that. I remember when we were doing youth ministry, and you were a young person, I would always have to break up fights, right? But I'd get them in a room by themselves. I'd get them out of where everybody's at. No, y'all come over here. Get them both by themselves. They tripping. No, leave homies over there. You leave your home. Come over here. What y'all gonna do? Man, shake his hand, bro. Hey, man, shake his hand. Ain't no problems. Now everybody around hyping you up. What's the problem? Oh, man, no. Shake his hand, bro. Hug. We finna pray. And they were, but because I understood, I wasn't sitting there like, oh, this is youth ministry. You can't fight. No, I know what it is. But you just got to invade that culture with Jesus and speak to them in the language they understand and say, I understand you're mad because he looked at you. You don't like nobody looking at you because you're insecure, and tell them all this stuff, helping them understand about themselves. You really ain't got a problem with each other. You got a problem before you even showed up. You see what I'm saying? But we're in church, so we're going to pray about this and make this right and bring the peace of God. But that's context and that's culture, right? And so we've never been afraid to engage our own type of people because we come from the same tribe. And
that's what I was going to say, that I know that part of the blessing for me when we were involved in ministry, and even now, is just being able to be there for people in some ways, in ways that I wish that someone had been able to speak into my life during that time. And I know that that's always been something that's been important to you. Young families are important to you. You talk about that all the time. Part of his transition into ministering to adults is because there were young families that were being hurt. There was domestic violence. There was stuff that really hurt him. And even though he was talking to the kids, he wanted to speak into the lives of the parents. And
Yeah,
so,
the
which
young-
was really like,
the young adults,
Yeah.
because at the time back in those days, there was a lot of our people from our culture. There were young men that were violently ending the lives of their baby's mom, and they're all young, and it was because they didn't know how to deal with things other than through violence. So they were violent with other people, and then they brought that home to even their own women that are not like that, and so they didn't know that. Well, we're just not supposed to be violent. So it was just that behavior that brought it all the way home, and they were killing their babies' moms and stuff. And that was happening a lot during that time. I made my decision. It broke my heart, and I'm like, I have to be a part of the solution. I can't be out here just mad and upset and getting on to society. I'm gonna get here and we're gonna do something. That's why we started Life Church back then, because I'm like, man, I'm always down for being about it. So if I'm gonna do something about it, then I got to be a part of the solution. You got to be what you want to see.
Yeah.
And so that was
and
part
we
of our
know
efforts.
that they, those young people, they saw y'all's example. They saw,
Yeah.
you're a husband and wife. You take care of your kids. You have a job. You have a house.
Yeah.
You pay your bills. Your
Yeah.
lights are on. You
Yeah.
got to work in. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And you're not taking chances. You're doing this legit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something that people don't see. I wanted to speak to something too, because your ministry had girls and guys, and to this day y'all still see these people, and there's still a good relationship there, because that's what even now we see people that used to come to the church, and there's good relationships because it was authentic what we did, and what God was doing through the ministry. And so could y'all, is there anybody that comes to mind, or you don't have to say names or anything, but could you speak to kind of the ministry that you had, girls and guys, and how important that is when we're out there reaching people from where we come from?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, I know we've been talking about it, but consistency. Because we were doing that 9 years ago, and we were the light then, but since we've been consistent with our life,
Come on.
they see us now and they're like, man, they're still at it. So now they're starting to, even though they're not youth anymore, they're young adults, and they're still reaching out like, hey, for example,
I don't know what that means. You're pointing at me.
you had a discussion with somebody on social media the other day. One of our old youth.
Oh yeah, one of our old youth.
Yeah.
She was asking about like our church and what we do, and had questions about things, and so just being able to interact and her trusting, my opinion about it, and then even like some of the boys like kind of hit him up still and wanted us to go see what they're doing,
and we've supported them over the years. When they've been through some tragedies, we show up, and it meant a lot. You know what I mean? And so
No, that's good, because you think about, consistency gets you to where you're at right now. Got us where we're at right now, and it means so much. And you guys are testimonies of it can be done, and it has been done. We got our generation where we've been able to now. Our kids are all out the house, as far as they're not all out the house, but they're all out of school is what I meant to say,
Right.
high school. And we've raised them all, and we've been able to allow God to show us that this stuff is possible. You can raise up your family and in our marriage to honor God, and it's possible, and beautiful things happen out of it. And that's what we've been able to experience now. And then so
them babies that I was just thinking, Nyela just was baptized, and so that's,
shout out to Nyela. Come on.
So this is something that's
Hold on, shout out to Baby Lo. That's
I
my
remember
mijo right there.
Baby Lo made a decision
And
to
then-
follow Jesus at church one Saturday
so
night,
sweet.
and they put it on a little piece of paper, and I just couldn't. I was so
yes.
excited, but I think that the thing that's so special to me is that you guys made a life change, and your kids have not had to experience
Yeah.
some of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They didn't have to witness
Yeah.
some of that stuff, and
Yeah.
that's all glory to God.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
man,
Yeah.
they wouldn't even know,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I think that is just amazing, and I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah.
It starts with you, but it doesn't end with you.
Mm-hmm.
God changes you and wants to encourage you and bless you personally in your mind and your heart.
Yeah.
But it hits the people that are closest to you, and then others too, man. And
So a few other things that are pivotal. So Angelo used to get in trouble with the laws. And so Angelo went viral on social media because he was sharing an experience that he had. And this is something that it's different from some people because, you know, like you guys really were out there doing things that y'all shouldn't have been doing. And one of the things that the testimony of a lot of the guys that came through the ministry is that you really were people that the law should have been cautious of when they pulled you over. But you had an experience when you said that, you know, this time it didn't happen because maybe it's because I didn't blow smoke in their face and maybe it's because this and that. And then that inspired you, and then we ended up doing a whole thing over the video, and a
music
lot of the
video, yeah.
teenagers were a part of
they
that
were,
music
yeah.
video. And so
Uh-huh.
we actually have that, you know, like it's there. It's a part of history.
And as it turns out, it just so happens that, you know, Mission Waco was a part of all that too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We did it at the diner.
Yeah,
She did,
At the diner across the
cafe,
street in the Jubilee grocery store. At the time, it was bought and they were renovating it, but it wasn't. But we recorded outside, and so yeah, man. So,
Those are like
and then we
pivotal
recorded all
moments.
in by the youth center. Like there's a lot of that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Did we did that anyway?
And how often does that happen when you get to be a part of something that big? And then Nikki Cruz, Nikki Cruz came, and I don't know that they all realized how special he is, but I mean, that's amazing.
Those are different videos, but still, we worked with Mission Waco,
Yeah.
and it was a church, and we were all a part of it.
There was a few things.
I remember, you know, Angelo, when Nikki Cruz came, I was like, Lo, I need you to be over the food. Bro, make sure you're over the food, making your head like, and he will hustle him and Crystalina, you know, just making sure.
That's when all the film
She was
crew
like,
came
that's
to our
another one
house.
of those times.
Yeah.
I was stressed out.
They came to our house. Like, it was like 20 guys, and I
Yeah.
remember I was making the fajita in the dark, and the little barbecue pit about that big.
Our whole house was full. People were sitting on the floor everywhere. Yeah, I remember that.
Man, but you know, that's the type of stuff, look.
But we had some
Angelo-
good times in small houses and tiny living rooms.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No
we
AC.
really did. 30 kids in the house. I mean,
No, these guys have been a part of a lot of that, those big pillar moments in our ministry.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's part of what I'm saying, consistency. No matter what I needed, you were always there to say, all right, I got you. You were the biggest challenge too at the same time.
But I loved that he was always like, this is what you said we're supposed to be doing.
I would teach him stuff, and
I
then
love
he'd be
that.
like, well, I don't know, G, but you said here. I'm like, I know what I said, but here's what we're going to do. And that's besides the point. Can we just move on? We're bleeding out here. We need to hurry up. But it was all good stuff. But no matter what, he was always willing, even though we were butt heads, at the end of the day, that didn't matter more than the purpose and what was needed at the time.
Yeah.
But it was always challenging because then I was like, oh yeah, we need to do this. Oh yeah, we need to do that. And I think people would get upset. They're like, why are you listening to Angelo all the time? Like, well, no, y'all don't understand. I done poured into him the most, and he's regurgitating back to me the stuff that I've trained him, which means a lot to me, which is why I wanted him to learn it.
Yeah.
Now he's getting on to me, and people were thinking, oh, I'm like, nah, he's just a walking dang conference.
No, for real.
And so a lot of people didn't understand behind the scenes, but he was dead serious. I would send him with stuff on MP3s. I would send him stuff on CDs. I would send him stuff on
Remember you
videos.
remember
gave me
that?
the box of books.
Yeah.
You gave me the box of books, and I guess I got to read them.
And he's sitting there taking notes, and he's being dead serious, and he was not playing. I don't know if there's been
But and every time he ever preached, he always did
Oh yeah.
all the stuff. And,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
always been an engaging sermon. Too.
No, man.
Like, wow.
He takes in the information and he really lives it out.
Yeah.
Like that was a trip. I'd be like, dang, bro, he kind of did that better than me. You know what I'm saying? I forgot I was supposed to do that. You know, but that's always been a highlight of who you are, right? That's always been something that's been admired, that I've admired about you is your consistency has to do with all these things. Leaders are learners. You've always been willing to lead but learn at the same time. And you
he's
can't
been focusing, like they've been focusing on their family now.
Oh yeah, but you can't do that without humility, right? To be a leader and learn at the same time, that's humility.
Yeah.
And you've always walked in humility, which is important, which I appreciate about you and Crystalina, because going back to what I said earlier, there's no you without Crystalina, because she's been there to support you and remind you and get on your butt and kind of tug at you and say, hey, you tripping.
Yeah, because I'm the visionary and she's the one, you know. She's gonna
she's
bring
the
that
rock.
wisdom. She's gonna bring that wisdom. Yeah.
Get some reality, get your feet back on the
gonna pull
ground.
my shirt back. Yeah.
So God has blessed y'all abundantly, and y'all are in a really good place now.
Nah,
and
for real.
we celebrate what God is doing in your lives, and I think you were on the Waco right? The Waco in Fajardo. Am I saying it?
Fajardo Design and Construction.
Yes, yes.
Get it right. Tell her.
So, yeah, tell us about some of that.
Crystalina, you tell us about all that.
What? Why me? Okay. Well, no, you tell it.
No, what do y'all want to know?
Yeah.
I just want to hear
I
Crystalina
mean-
tell her side of it. What's going on? Tell us
How
what.
it started, or
Yeah, just tell us from what you know, and then of course you can come in. But just tell us about the Fajardo construction, design, whatever it's called. Tell us about
Fajardo
it.
Design and Construction.
Okay.
So it's my husband's design. He does custom home builds.
Okay.
Started in, when did it start? 2020, I mean, sorry.
2020? Yeah.
2020 in the midst of COVID.
Okay.
And it started in a time that was definitely needed. And
Yeah.
we were definitely in a hard place at that time. And
Yeah.
God provided. He
Yeah, God
a way.
providing. That's like, I tell everybody, they're like, how'd you do it? And this and that. I'm like, look, the most important thing is I kept God number one,
Yeah.
you know, and they trip out, and a lot of people still don't get it. And there's a lot of people that are talking, you know, but I just tell them straight up, it's God number one, you know, and God's going to make a way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So you know, let's talk about the support, and we'll get back on that. The support that you have. I know part of the support that you've always had, especially with Crystalina, is you had her parents. You know, we talk about, you know, Crystalina holding you accountable. Boy.
Yeah.
If you know the Doros,
Yeah.
you already know they don't play. Woo, especially Janet. Shout out to Janet. What's up? Well, no smoke with Miss Doro. But no, we love them, and we're so grateful for the Doros. But man, can you talk about that level of support, accountability? But man, what a blessing they are to the city, you know, as founders of Mission Waco. But what a blessing they are to you two, and have been. And I know it's been some, you know, but man, they've always meant well. They've always had an amazing heart and posturing, because they wanted, first of all, the best for you, and then the best for you, and ended up being the best for y'all, and how that's going in the best for the family, because now you have kids, and that changes everything from popos to, you know, momos or whatever.
Yeah.
And, tell us about that evolving family situation and the level of support that they've been for y'all.
Go ahead.
No, that's you.
Okay. Well, first of all, I get my boldness from my mother. She has very much instilled that into me, and speaking up when things need to be spoke up about. But in 2020, like I said, it was kind of like a rough time financially for us. Angelo was pursuing a time of social media. I don't even know what it's called.
Make money from social media.
Yeah.
You know, for you know, through the ministry.
And realistically, it just wasn't working out. And of course, we wanted that to work, but it just wasn't. And it was during COVID, and it was just tough. Like, it was a hard time for me. I was drained. I worked 2 jobs, so it was like it was hard. And then it got to a point where my dad, I don't even know. I guess they knew I cried to them or something. I don't know. I was just tired, and my dad was like, "All right, I need to have a talk with Angela."
Oh, Mr. Doyle. So tell us about that.
Man, it was like, I think the most humblest time in my Christian walk.
Okay.
You know, because I never had a discussion with her dad.
Okay.
You know, and we're in his, at his restaurant, Mission Waco. And he's like,
World Cup, to be exact.
World Cup. He was like, what are you going to do?
I'm 15 in car court.
And I was being all spiritual, like, man, I'm doing this, I'm reaching the people and this and that. He's like, you're going to have to humble yourself. You need to go read the book of Proverbs. Man, boy, I was because I thought he was going to just come and like, all right, the ministry. But he brought that wisdom, man, that I needed, And he's like, go read the book of Proverbs. If you got to go mop floors for a living, that's what you need to do. And boy, I remember I called you after that.
You got encalentada.
I got encalentada, man. And I was like, man. And I went to go, I did what he told me to go do. Go read the book of Proverbs. I went to go read the book of Proverbs. And boy, it humbled me. It humbled me. And that's how they got started. Yeah.
So how? What are some moments, some of those pivotal moments with the parents that you see now were really helpful that at the time you didn't appreciate?
Oh man, it was a blessing.
Okay, how so?
Because that's what made me launch into, getting out there and starting, the business.
Okay.
And so yeah.
Like how so? What sticks out? Like what's one thing that really got you? Or what challenge did he put before you that really got you as a man?
Well, just him saying if you got to go wash floors,
right?
It's like, okay, I get it. I just need to go do something,
right?
And that was a challenge, man. And just another man telling me,
yeah.
Because over the years, we would get into it because I would think you were punking me out, right?
Yeah.
And that was my issues of growing up, and so I'm like, I had to fight that, like, man, I got to stop thinking like he's punking me out, And so I took that in and ran with it, man. So yeah.
Well, that's to your credit. No matter what it's always been, you'll take that and run with it, even though there's heads bumping about it. Yeah. So now, let's talk about the success you've had spiritually in your marriage, and then let's talk about the financial success within the business. So unpack that for us.
Well, in our marriage, I just feel like we've always just really gone back to what we were taught with y'all, like in Life Church. Like, I think we go back to that every week.
Yeah, no, for real. Yeah.
No, but seriously, it was so impactful for us to have somebody listen to us, but also like really be honest and like, I mean, like you said, like you were like on him. Like it wasn't, we weren't playing.
Oh, yeah.
And that was so necessary. I mean, gosh, Joanne, I'm so sorry. You've seen some bad days.
Yeah, because through the years, we just didn't change in 2013. Right? That for years, it was training like our marriage. Y'all would get calls at 12 o'clock at night, because we're going through it as a marriage. So it took years of development, so.
And there was always just different seasons in life, and those seasons were hard sometimes. It was like one of those things where we were always, it always pointed back to where, well, number one, to God, but also like to what y'all were teaching us. And it was like, what did they tell us? What did we do? Let's go back to square one, so that was, I think, one of the most crucial things for our marriage to get to where it was at. Where it's at now.
And we were developing, this is a cool part of this particular story with y'all and us, is because y'all were around long enough to where we were developing as leaders, as pastors. We were learning more, realizing things, and while we were realizing them, then we were able to adjust and, share some stuff with y'all and all that, and stuff we were learning then that we didn't know, y'all were learning with us because we've always been that way. we always invite people into a Bible study and say, come learn with us. It wasn't like, oh, let's make this to where we get to teach us something that we've been knowing. No, no, no. Come learn with us. Let's learn together, right?
Yeah.
I remember the Emotionally Healthy Spirituality book. Do y'all remember anything
Oh,
about
yeah.
that?
Oh, yeah.
How was that? Because when we learned that, y'all learned it. That was one of them things. Y'all learned it with us.
Yeah.
We didn't know that. And then when we came across it, we learned it together. Is there
Yeah.
anything that y'all pulled from that?
Oh yeah, that's man, like the dark night of the soul and going through the emotions and I think that was the biggest thing because, especially as, young and a lot of people make decisions based off emotions and we were learning about like, man, we can't make rational decisions based on emotions, and it was emotional roller coaster through, our early years of marriage. And so one thing I knew was that I had to get through that wall, which the book talks about, the dark night of the soul, and not letting your emotions get in the way,
Right.
and so yeah.
Yeah, no, man, that's been a part of the journey is learning together. And, I think there's, did you ever do the parenting one? The, how not to lose your mind?
I think we did, didn't we?
Yeah, we did all kind of.
I think
I
we
was
did
gonna say,
every single
we
one
did
of those
everything we had.
classes.
Yeah. They did
Yeah.
everything we had. Shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, they
We
were
had
there.
to.
You look at all the
Yes.
pictures, they're there.
It was at our house.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I remember when we were on Park Street and we'd have like about 60 people show up and we were like in that little bitty
Yes.
room.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Then we had like about 30 kids outside playing. We had to hire some a couple of people from the church to come and be outside with the kids.
Yeah.
Man, it was crazy. Remember, in the whole front yard and the front street was clogged up with all the people cars. Man, that was crazy. That was just Bible studies.
Yeah.
We were just saying, hey, let's do a Bible study. People started showing up, neighbors, everybody's doing things they ain't supposed to be doing next door and across the street, showing up to the Bible studies. You remember that? But man, people were showing up, man.
Yeah.
A lot of great times, man. A lot of great moments. But man, Fajardo Construction and Design, is that, or Design and what is it? What is it?
Design.
She's like, now get it right.
Yeah.
I should have just wore my shirt today.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so it's successful. Came out on the Wacoian. How do you say it?
Waco in.
Yeah, which is pretty cool, man. That's a big deal. But even bigger than that, it's being recognized because you guys are doing great things out there with a great business model. Can you, as we end with some of this, can you kind of speak to that, like the business model, the approach, and how you, coming from where you come from, have been able to establish and implement some of those principles that's not really normal to where we come from?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that integrity.
How so?
Just because, when I first got in it, I was hearing all these stories of, builders and contractors stopping a job, taking money, not finishing it, not doing it right. And me coming into this business as a Christian, going through all these leadership, stuff through the church and learning. And I said, you know what? I got to do the right thing even when nobody's looking. And I think that's one of the main things that has taken us off. And that leaves a mark of trust in the community, And so I think that's the biggest thing, man, is showing that integrity, because you're dealing with a lot of people's money, and yeah.
So you said, could y'all both speak on this with that in y'all's business? A lot of people don't understand how you said something about the church and leadership and some of the things God gave me that I was able to give to you guys was some of the Rick Warren stuff, right? Some of those principles, the John Maxwell, a lot of those different, we can keep going with all the different leaderships. stuff, but these are biblical principles, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that and that success? Because I don't think a lot of people realize that. They may think, oh, you're just lucky, or whatever, or it's just an Angelo thing, or because of the Doros, you name it. People will be out there and they'll say it's because of all that.
Yeah, people are.
But they're not going to understand this, because you can talk about this and kind of clear that up.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I tell people, number one, I put God first.
Okay.
And a lot of people say, God first, yeah, but it's not just talking. It's living it out. And I'm going to say it right now, and I don't tell a lot of people this, but I'm going to say it since it's for the record. It starts with money, finances. The book of Deuteronomy talks about the purpose of tithing is to teach us to put God first. You say you put God first, where's that money going? And we've been able to be a blessing to the local church, but also to the community, and just doing that I think that's the most important thing, so doing that, man, being a blessing to others, man, and I think that's the biggest thing,
Did you have anything to say?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, we've done that from the beginning. Like when we first started church, like it was hard.
Yeah.
Like that was when we were broke as a joke. Like it was hard. But like now it's like God was like, here y'all go.
Yeah.
You know
and
what
it's
I mean?
like if you were faithful with the small,
yeah.
And so I think that's one of the main things. And again, it's, being a company of integrity, and treating our employees, the right way. There's just a lot of things that go in it, So, yeah.
Well, congratulations on all the successes in your marriage and your spiritual journeys, and there's a whole lot that we can still unpack, and perhaps we'll do that at another time and continue these conversations. But congratulations. You guys are faithful, and y'all's living. That's the name of our podcast, Faithful Living Podcast, and you've been faithful, which is why for us it's an honor to have you on here with us, and of course y'all stories cross with our story.
And there's a whole lot more that we didn't talk about that we could talk about.
And we will. We'll definitely continue to talk about it and unpack.
I have a scripture I wanted to share.
Go on, share it.
It just makes me think of them. So this is 1 Timothy 4:12. Y'all recognize it. But it says, don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. So I just want to say God bless y'all, and may he continue to bless y'all in your life, in your marriage, in all of the things that you do, and that you would continue to show glory to the Lord, and that people would be able to see that example of God through the life that y'all live. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, sweetie. That's what's up. But God bless y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Is there any this is y'all's camera right here. Maybe there's a Crystalina or an Angelo or a couple like y'all that you may want to speak to. What would you want to say to them as we close this out? You just look at that camera and talk to them.
No, you
go first. I'll go next.
No,
okay.
I don't know.
All right. So I think the biggest thing is seek God first in everything you do, and everything else will be added. Most important thing.
Crystalina.
Ditto, because, same.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we would not be here.
Oh,
if
yeah.
We were not seeking God first.
Yeah.
Oh,
My
yeah.
goodness.
It's not just the financial part. It's our marriage. Our marriage is rich. Our children, our spiritual life is rich. The most important things, so, yeah.
Amen. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see y'all next time.
Yeah.